Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Spectrum. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, live here on the Untold Radio Network. I first off would like to share any confusion that we are doing this again, take two, because our first wrap had some audio issues, and we are all fixed there, hopefully, and we are live here. So thank you so much for tuning in again and joining us here on the Untold Radio Network. We're going to jump right into this. So I am going to go ahead and introduce my guest today. Um, Joining us on today's show is the one and only Skye Chen. He is a gifted intuitive and a healer who has a profound ability to guide individuals on their spiritual journeys. Skye specializes in a variety of services, including psychic readings and deep soul alignments known as Ethereal Calibration, or EC. EC serves as a transformative practice, helping to align the body, mind, and soul in authentic harmony. Much like a chiropractor aligns the physical body, EC aligns all aspects of the client's soul into harmonic synchronicity. Skye's unique approach aids in unleashing one's internal potential through a factory reset of the truest form of oneself and facilitates a profound connection with the soul. In addition, he offers ongoing sessions specifically designed for those blessed with spiritual gifts, providing invaluable guidance and mentorship. With a deep commitment to helping others achieve self-discovery and provide resources to support spiritual development, Skye Chen's holistic and compassionate approach is an invaluable resource for those seeking balance and enlightenment. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show my guest today, Skye Chen.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome properly to the show, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was a great intro, too.
Thank you. I didn't write it. I think you did.
I think somebody wrote it for me.
Nice. As for anybody who doesn't know, I used to have another podcast, Whispers from the Dark, and Skye has been a guest on there many times, and every time it's been a lot of fun, and it always goes off the rails. And today is no exception. So
no exception. You know, that session, the last time that we met when we were in, I think it was Janesville, Wisconsin, that was a really interesting period because you had followers. You had these people, I think it was like this little girl or something, if I recall, that kept popping her head, looking at you, and you felt it too. And I did a clearing on you. How have you felt since then?
Oh, you know, it's been ups and downs. We've gone through a lot of weird places, and weird things have happened since then. I mean, it's been probably, what was it, 2 years since that happened? So it's been quite a while.
Yeah, time's gone by. Are you wearing silver?
I am not.
They're reminding me to do that. Actually, before coming on here, my guides reminded me, and they said, before you get on, you must wear silver. What silver does, for anybody listening, is it prevents attachments from forming with all sorts of spirits. Especially if you yourself are sensitive or receptive to seeing or hearing spirits, it really can help us tremendously. It's been a game changer for me. I've had lingering followers my entire life. And it wasn't until I learned from another psychic medium that, hey, you should be wearing your silver, and I'm wearing an actual silver chain now too, to prevent those kinds of attachments. I mean, I always felt like it was something in physical proximity, but it kind of surprised me today before coming on that my guides were saying, hey, you know, wear silver. Barnaby is a deep diver, and so you've got pilot fish that stick to you sometimes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like big sharks and big things that swim in the ocean. They've got these like fish that always follow them here and there at like a hair's distance from them. Comes with the territory.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I actually don't even have. You remember Klaus? We had a discussion about the little rock in the cage, and
Hmm.
he's actually in the other room. I don't have him on now either, so I've taken my nap and I haven't done much more than that yet today. So that's where we're at.
Well, I woke up today. That's a start. That's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So we have so much. I mean, there's so much stuff that we've dug in together already. Um, I think I would like to start with you because we you were talking about how you see and feel and hear the
Mm.
energy and spirit. And it's always fascinating to me when I talk to mediums and psychics and stuff as to how you perceive these entities, these energies, these spirits. So when you say you see them, do you see them in your mind or do you see them like physically in the room around you or both?
That's a great question. This can be um it can be different depending on the circumstance and the situation that presents itself because it can be both. I will say that in my experience, in my life, when I was a kid, I I guess you could say see it with my eye a little bit more. I didn't really distinct make a distinction then, because I didn't even realize that I was different than most people then either. It was just kind of a given thing. My parents would always talk about how I had imaginary friends, and I just kind of went along with what their narrative was. I didn't realize that they were literal people. There were actually two miners that died in a mining accident. Bob and Chuck, they called themselves. They wore these big, long, dirty overalls, and they had like headlamps with candlesticks from the late
Mm,
1800s that I now know. I didn't know then, but I would talk about them constantly and draw them and all this and that. I literally saw them. Um, but as I age, I realized that you could say you see them in your mind's eye. It's not necessarily through your physical eye, except a few times that does occur as an adult where I will literally see something right there. And it usually only happens when there's a large concentration of energy happening at that moment from that individual or from that spirit if it's not a human. So I hope that answers a little bit. But
mhm,
for me, I guess so. Point A is I never really know exactly how I'm going to receive what I'm going to receive or when. I like to say that I'm a translator, I'm a conduit, and I don't always get the same memo that God does, that the universe does. So, in a way, I feel like I'm along for the ride as well, which is actually a pretty cool aspect of the job doing it professionally. I read thousands of people and I do hundreds of healings too. And every individual is their own unique case. And I never know how I'm going to receive information, if it's just going to be seeing, if it's just going to be hearing, or if it's a combination of ways I can pick it up. I can feel things too. um, I believe people call that clair sentience, where you just feel, or you just know what something is about a person and it just comes out. But I tell everybody that I work with, I don't have a working mind in the sense that many of us have when we're engaged in tasks, when we're memorizing things, when we're remembering things. In fact, my memory is pretty bad when it comes to channeling, even more so when I'm doing healings for people, because I get into this space where I tell everybody that I get out of my own way. The
mhm,
secret to how I can channel is having an empty head. I say that a lot too, because it's true. When you take away the filter, and to you, this might seem a little interesting or ludicrous because of what you do, but I really appreciate what you do because um, everybody approaches this differently for what they're meant to approach it with in their lives. And you're more of like the scientist, the realist, the one who wants evidence, the one who wants to capture things. And I'm coming at it from the other angle, but we're both aiming for the same thing. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's why we're here together. It's a really beautiful thing. It kind of pays homage to times past where we had scientists and we had theologians, and they were not too far removed from one another institutionally in human civilization, at least. And I think we're at a precipice now in society and civilization where the convergence of the two are ever closer. Mm-hmm. Because we do have advancements in technologies where we can detect these things. It's just that the context is usually what people like you are looking for. And people like me appreciate that solid foundation to our lives, because, you know, the show goes on with or without that evidence for me, because I'm born this way and I work the way that I work with spirit and with healing. So I also have a bit of a scientific mind too. It's a really interesting story about me, because although I was born this way, I spent most of my life so far, up until about my mid-20s or so, really trying to double down on being a normie, following the herd of the sheep, trying to blend in, trying to get by, have a somewhat normal life, or some semblance of it. And that constant deterrence eventually brought me to a pivotal moment in my life where I had no choice but to rediscover myself and to get back into my roots. And a big obstacle to that was me constantly having to have control of the way that I knew things and believed things and saw things. Because I was in decades of denial. I was in a long time of denial and shutting myself out from myself and being all up in my head. And for me, in my spiritual journey, that was a huge point that I learned from in going through that trial and tribulation and turmoil of basically losing my ability to think and to remember and to hold sentences and to engage socially with people, because at that point I was full into Lyme disease, and it was affecting my brain and my central nervous system, and my repressed emotions, especially anger and bitterness and frustration, were all coming to the surface at the same time. It was an incredibly intense time of my life, and it was my curse. But as I say with all of my clients, and I'm going to say it right here and now because it's coming up right now, and they're reminding me, now I'm hearing it. So they say every curse is a blessing and every blessing is a curse. It means that you have to look at different angles to why things happen to us in life. And it is okay to honor things as curses, and it's okay to honor them as blessings too. But just know that there's a utility to everything that happens to us and everything that's given to us that's a gift or a curse.
That's very well put. I 100% agree. You have so much stuff in there that I want to come back and cover, and I just wanted to let you finish your thoughts and stuff here.
I felt it, man. I know. Yeah. You're the juicy diver. That's what I love about you. You're like picking at stuff.
Yeah, man. So I want to touch on one thing because it relates to something that my team has actually just dealt with. So I have two mediums that we work with full time with our team now, Stephanie Lynn and Ellie Weisensell. And we recently did an investigation on our YouTube channel at the Al Ringling Mansion. And the episode just came out, and Stephanie watched it and she put a comment in the little group chat that we have with the three of us. And she asked Ellie, do you remember any of this? Because she said that, when she was there doing it all, she just blocked it out. And it was so interesting that, you had just brought up the fact that you don't remember, when you're channeling or doing these readings and stuff. And then to hear that and be able to now take that back to her and say, this is a very common thing, maybe, as far as, at least she's not the only one dealing with it. But yeah, she completely didn't remember like half the stuff that was in the episode or that happened because she was in that zone. So
I think it's by design for us, because could you imagine, how do you cram or retain all of that information about lives come and gone again and again and again? I work with thousands of people across many years. If I had to retain any of that information, I would be the most clogged filter you'd ever come across. And the way that you get the information through is by having a clean sand, like when we were children, we played the sandbox, and you have like these little filters, you put them in, you watch the sand slowly come down. Most people, or I should say many people, have one about this big, let's say. But psychic mediums, we have ones this big. So when we're sifting, we really have to get all of that stuff to come through and to let it go so that we can be light and open and receptive. There are ways to clog it up, like I was just talking about earlier, in how I really tried to put my head down and just be like, I'm a normie, I'm normal, this is how I'm going to go about. And I was very much in my head and my ego. That's an example of someone having an ability that's cramming themselves full of something, but it's no way to live. It's part of my ego death with going through Lyme disease. It was very difficult, but it was a lot of shedding emotions, a lot of processing what I've felt for years and years and years that I just swept under the rug, and I eventually had to deal with it. I was just talking with a client the other day who is in a really tricky situation with their mother-in-law and their wife, and the mother-in-law is deteriorating with dementia and really having to process 60 years of suppressed emotions all at once, because when you lose your mind's ability to be there in that way, the emotional body really comes through that veil, and there isn't so much of an opaqueness that can kind of keep it contained within as this like outer shell. That's what a lot of people use their intellect for, or their ego self. Looks like Courtney is commenting a lot
blowing
here.
up the comments here. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Courtney, how's it going?
She's very happy to be here.
Courtney's grandmother is going through the exact same situation. It's interesting. It runs in my family. And it really, like, dementia specifically has to do with people who place all their chips into their mind as you go through life. And there's many different reasons that can be. But for my family, I don't want to say curse, family blessing curse, my family inheritance through the DNA, through our lineage, we have a lot of anxiety because there were some common ancestors a long, long, long time ago that were betrayed. And anytime you are betrayed, there's an element of self-betrayal with that has to be processed. In other words, why did I let this happen? How come I was so dumb? I didn't foresee this, et cetera, et cetera. Where that passes from parents to children to parents to children to parents to children. And it manifests as OCD or anxiety disorders, bipolarism, all sorts of nervous system dysregulation, because these people have sensitivities, they have abilities that they are trying to cram through a particular frame. And that frame is my intellect, my logic, my knowing, my mental processing, my ego. So they're trying to take all of what they pick up from other parts to them, like their soul, their heart, their emotional body, your ethereal body, and you're trying to cram it through one little bottleneck of the mind. And when you do that to such an extent and so intensely for many, many, many years and decades, your body starts to break. Your mind is part of your body, or it's closely connected, we'll say. So it starts to wear down, and there's no safety net for people in those predicaments. So they literally go through ego deaths. But the reason that it's so terrifying to them is because they don't feel like they have any safety net beneath them, because they've ignored all other aspects to their being for their entire lives. So I'm not judging it. I'm just saying black and white, that's mechanically what's going on with people in these situations. And it is what it is. It's an intense thing, but a lot of us go through that. Courtney says, like hitting all the buttons on keyboard and expecting it to keep up with you. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And, people who have dementia and in more advanced stages, they're extremely emotionally volatile. That's what people will say about them. That's because all of this dust that they've swept under the rug is coming out of the rug as the rug itself deteriorates, as rips and tears form, as holes start to open up. As the layer of the rug gets thinner and thinner and thinner, dust can come through where you forgot about it. You put it there to forget about. It is a blessing as much of a curse, though, because a lot of folks who don't get this will have to process this during their transition to the afterlife regardless. So you get kind of a head start on it, and your soul gets some sort of introduction. Irritated that the time is gone, Courtney says, and they feel like it was wasted and possible regret.
Mm-hmm.
Or they get really, really angry about something that they do know, that they really, really hold on to as an anchor. For example, this client of mine, he and his wife hide the checkbook and the ID from his mother-in-law, her mom, because she'll constantly look for it, hoard it, and then forget where she places it. But the reason she's doing that is because she knows this is something she can possibly control. It's her finances. It's her stuff, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
extension of her ego. My accumulation, my thing. This is my identity. I have empowerment over this aspect of what I've built. And she forgets many, many, many things. But the one thing she doesn't forget is that they take it from her. So she screams and yells at them, "You're thieves, you're liars, you take it from me, blah, 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 blah." And the reason there's such ferocity with it is because she's placing her chips that are being lost on the edge of the table, left and right, onto this one spot that hasn't yet slipped off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "This is what I know. So she's trying to fit her emotional body and her spiritual body and her mental body into this little cup that's really only about the mental body that just so happens to be there. That also has an expiry. It has an expiration date. But you see, so this is the kind of conveyor belt that dementia can be. Can't make this stuff up, Skye, Courtney says. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a gift for us and our families, because especially when we get to see this and we go through it, it will trigger us also. It will catalyze through gravitational force, if it's mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, because that's, that's close to us, that's blood, right? We'll sort of get our gears going and be like, gosh, am I going to have to go through something like this? What kind of emotions are coming up within me that might mirror this person that is near and dear to me, that, maybe I'm trying to avoid, or I'm mimicking, something's fitting, something's mirroring in this circumstance. That's why these circumstances are gifts, not just curses. Anything that's a curse is also a gift. You just have to see it on the other side, or see it from another angle, or see what utility it has. Same thing with gifts too, because gifts can be curses also. They're not just sunshine and rainbows. I get a lot of clients who come to me and say, gosh, you're so lucky. You get to see and know things that other people, they get their heads spinning round and round and round. They're trying to figure stuff out, and it just comes quick to you. And it's like, yeah, well, there's that, but you don't see the other end of it. That can be an absolute curse if you know what people are feeling and thinking, and you're trying to get ahead of life, especially if you're a controlling person or trying to do what I just described, what dementia patients do, because it runs with me too in my family. And so, as I was saying to Barnaby earlier, is I spent a large portion of my life trying to control things, have an OCD, and trying to manipulate and trying to be like everybody else, accumulate this, have this, have a house, have a family, have whatever. But if you're a soul that came here to do what I do, which there are many, that will be corrected eventually. And every shaman I've ever met has gone through an incredibly tumultuous life. And that's the same for me. I feel like my feet never hit the ground since birth. There was always some experience, some learning, some changing and shaping, and even my own identity, placing it into this box and this box and this box and this box, with this group and this group and this group and this group, going through life as different people and as different lives, so to speak.
Can't fit in when we're born to stand out. Dr. Seuss. That's awesome.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. It's it's a doozy. Thank you, Courtney. She says, I'm so relatable. We're forever evolving, or we're not alive. Exactly. And I want to say something too, Courtney, because I'm getting information about you too. There's some starseed connection here. This is a great segue into this topic. Starseeds are people, or not necessarily people either, but animals too. Souls who are living, that have a portion of their soul, or sometimes all of their soul, originating from outside this planet. And oftentimes planets can exist outside the current reality that we're within, the current universe that we're in. There are more than one universe. And this can get into another topic too, Barnaby, and we could talk about CERN.
Yeah, I knew that. It was coming.
Yeah, I was picking up on it. Yeah. Because you can definitely pinpoint certain things that have happened evidentially that relate to this topic. But there's a large number of starseeds as human beings on the planet right now. We've felt that deeply, that we've never really been able to fit in wherever we go. And it's a very lonely dialogue. And we can connect with people. We do play our roles, but there's always this element of, no matter what those connections or roles are, it's never 100% authentic, or there's never a perfect fit to that glove. It's because there isn't a glove here for people like us. Crystal child, Courtney says, mother of rainbow starseed. I'm a indigo, but born to the younger generation. A lot of the indigo people come from the 60s, 70s. They're in the boomers, the boomer generation. But I also work with the blue people. That's the way I put it. I work with Pleiadian types of souls, people who have souls that come from Pleiades, that come from other star systems in that region, but all of them have somewhat blue skin. And I've had many of straight up extraterrestrials channel me while I'm meditating, or even in waking life. I've got stories too, Barnaby.
I know.
I've been contacted more than a couple times. It was really interesting because the contact that was made with me began only 3 years ago. And it just exploded ever since. It's been a while, though. It's been kind of a hot minute. It's been about, I want to say 7 or 8 months since the last time. And that last time was pretty cool. I was wide awake at night in a very secluded area in a city, and no one else was paying attention to what was going on. But there was a craft that was hovering right above me for about 2 hours. And I have a pine cone that I found, a very interestingly shaped pine cone in that exact location that was almost as if it was saying, take me, this is for you. It seemed very out of place, and I picked it up, and it's on my altar still.
Interesting.
Mm.
When you talk about like the Palladians and the blue people and stuff like that, are these all the same? Like, are they all the same souls? Are they all the same thing in a different physical form? Or, like what I'm trying to get at is like, are there humans and another species? Or when you have your soul and the spirit, are they all the same?
How do I answer this? That's a loaded question because it's a bit of everything, depending on what perspective you're seeing what slice of pie at. That's a good analogy to use, because yes, you're right. If you zoom out far enough, we're all connected, right? We're all one. When you began positing this question, I heard, no, there are differences. So it's kind of like cousins. That's a good way to personify it. When you meet human beings on the planet who are star seeds, some of them literally have DNA that's not human in them. That's another subtopic to this, but people who are human, who have human DNA, the starseed aspect is more, it's more about the soul. It's more about their soul has not lived as a human yet, or sparsely. In my own example, I have lived more lives outside of Earth and outside these dimensions than I have lived on Earth. However, I have lived on Earth a handful of times. And some of those lives, I have vivid memories that I've retained in this life. That's not necessarily uniform across everybody. But having said that, I have met starseeds where this is their very first life on Earth, and it is a rough one. Especially the emotional component of being human. It's central to being human. It's a big reason for why so many souls come here. People call this the school, Earth school, as a planet. I'm not the biggest proponent of saying that we come here to learn. We can learn. We don't need to learn. But what's more important than learning is experiencing. And if you see it in that frame as, I experience to learn, then I can see your perspective on it. But we really do come here to shape the soul. So think of karma as a substance rather than as a law. Karma is like clay. We all come here with a ball of clay. And the clay is so that we can live through form. Without form, you can't embody anything here, whether it's physical or metaphysical. You can't embody anything without a form, right? You need a body, you need a mind. A mind is a form. It's a conglomeration of impressions and choices and learning in a particular lens or particular lenses, right? Of a person's perspective of what they're going through. And all of that has utility. And that utility transcends right or wrong, black or white, left or right, because there's more dimensions to it than just this way or that way. Although that's what we conceptualize as people living in the third dimension, because that's paramount to living in the third dimension. You can't walk through a burning home with a physical body and retain it, for example. You have to have that black and white distinction. Hey, that's going to kill me at the very basic. And then there's all these finer and finer examples as it matriculates up the scale of, on the other end of the scale, like, what choice do I make in this situation? What's the moral thing to do versus logical thing versus whatever. So starseeds can struggle with that quite a bit, because we often come from places and spaces and times where the limitations of Earth are not present or applicable. So what we imagine, what we create, there's very little resistance in the way to that. But coming here on Earth, there's every bit of resistance that gets in the way to that. So anything we try to manifest, there's so much friction along every junction of that journey, especially things that matter.
Let me ask you, when you were trying to fit in and be normal and not embrace this, right? At what point did that switch flip? And what was the turning point where you said, no, this is real, this is what I'm supposed to be, and what happened right there?
First thing I'm going to say is there's a switchboard.
I'm sure there is. Yes.
Excuse me. And I feel that switches are added to the board as I go forward, so to speak. There have been many steps along the path, and there are many more yet to come. I know, reluctantly, but I still know. So a big one was getting ill. I've actually had a lot of close, what would you say? Like I brushed death a handful of times. The first time was when I was 12 and I had this mysterious illness come on to me. And the only thing that really got me through it was they eventually had to keep me on an IV. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I was vomiting every 5 to 10 minutes. And I actually eroded my esophagus away, and I wasted away down to like skin and bones. And I actually called out to my parents. I said, please just kill me. I want to die. This is too much. It went on for maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. It was really, really bad. But I got through it, and it left an impact on me that I didn't really learn. I didn't really see in its full glory until many, many years later, when similar things happened to me at a different level of intensity and a different sequence. So I lived abroad for a handful of years, and I in different countries. But when I was in Taiwan, I had a very similar illness come about, and it progressed, and it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I had a heart attack at 24, 23 or 20. I was 24 years old, and it was in McDonald's of all places. I kind of joke about that because it's like, imagine if I would have croaked and here's this headline of the newspaper: American dies of a heart attack where? At McDonald's from eating Big Macs and burgers. And that'd be like the source of a boycott internationally for kicking McDonald's out. So even in my death, it would have promoted a good thing, right? I would have been the poster child for why you shouldn't eat at McDonald's or something. But luckily for me, by coincidence, there was a hospital right next door. And in Taiwan, you can get admitted to hospitals like that. Paperwork is minimal. It takes like 5 minutes to get through. And so that began a very, very long journey. I stayed there for maybe another 7 months trying to figure out what was happening. I was working full time, and it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I was eventually hospitalized for a couple weeks in the top research hospital in Taipei, and actually the entire region of Southeast Asia. And they did all these pokes and prods and tests, and they came back and they said, look, we've got good news and bad news. The good news is you've got something called autoimmune disease. The bad news is we don't have a whole lot of literature about this. We had to crack open our textbooks from the Western world to find what the heck this even is, because we don't have a lot of people here that have that. Well, learning many years later, looking back, there are many people that have this. Okay, this is the largest growing pandemic, epidemic before the and all of that, before the came about. And it's still growing. And in fact, the is accelerating this beast beneath the belly of the world and the immune system of the world. That's growing and growing and growing because of many different reasons. That's another rabbit hole. Pesticides and overuse of antibiotics and pollution, and also spiritual pollution too, all has to relate to that. But these switches were flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping. It's like one switch opens a door or a part of the switchboard that illuminates new switches, and it grows and it grows and it grows. So it's been one hell of a journey. It's been crazy because I keep learning more and more and more, and seeing that there is more to learn, and learning more, and then it's kind of exponential. I think what that's showing is that we have access to this everywhere, but if we're so focused on our physical lives and our mental selves, that can really put blinders on it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong about that. We're just putting all our chips into one area. But I suppose all of these different switches that went on here and here and here and here and here were broadening my scope, which is something you need to have doing this work. Being this kind of person. Coming through life, we feel, oh my God, I'm cursed. And it's true, you are cursed. But that curse is a huge blessing too. It just takes time and a process to illuminate that. Other switches along the way, one case in point, I didn't realize that I could help people heal in the way that I do with Ethereal Calibration, or EC, until I was in a really dire situation with an ex of mine who happens to be a twin flame. That's another offshoot we could go off of and talk about, where she was literally in a life or death situation. Her breathing had stopped. Her heart had stopped. And in that extreme moment, I did a healing with her. I just went with it. I felt it. I was doing it. Something was guiding me, you could say. And she came to, and she wasn't in a working state of mind. And I was talking with her. She was telling me things, and there were more spirits in that house swirling around than I've ever experienced in my life yet. She had a cat and a dog, and the cat was looking up, head going this way, that way, that way. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of souls and spirits in there, because I was calling them in. I was saying, my guides, her guides, every healer that's there, every ascended master, everybody that can help us and that's here for us, please let her stay alive, like keep her here. And she was going in and out, in and out, in and out. Even doing this healing, bringing her back, her heart was back, but I'd feel it, and it was like irregular. And then she would go unconscious again, and then her heart would stop, and then her breathing would stop. It was extremely, extremely intense. That was another big switch where I was like, wow, I can do this. And then after the fact, she was like, wow, you can do this. That opened the segue. There's been other switches too, where I remember late 2019, I was in my apartment at the time, and I was in a really negative spot in my life, and I was just wondering, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And my main guide came to me, and at this time I had already been acquainted with him enough, or reacquainted, I should say. And he literally told me, and I hear this, I hear him a lot, I hear his voice, and he said, let people know exactly what it is that you do. And I was not liking that advice. I did not want to do that. I did not want to put myself out there and say, hey, look, I'm a psychic medium. I channel, I read, I do this kind of very deep spiritual healing. I was reluctant. And I started like arguing with him. I see, just because I channel doesn't mean I follow it always. Yeah, I'm still a human being. I still have my own, my own stuff to go through. And one of my objections to him was, I don't want to use my birth name. I don't want to use my given name that my parents gave me. And he says to me, he's like, you already have a name. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he showed me, and I put a light bulb switched, put two and two together. While I lived in Taiwan, I was given the name Chen Sikai. And I didn't make that myself. I was given that name at a certain other light switch moment in my life. And years had gone by since I came back to the US. After I got sick enough in that hospital, I eventually came back to the US, and the idea was go to Mayo Clinic and they're going to fix you up, blah, 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 blah. Basically what happened was that didn't happen. Big surprise. But years went by where I just kind of, forgot about that, I guess you could say, until that moment. And then I looked at it and I was like, Chen Sakai, Skye. Holy cannoli. My name is Skye Chen. And then he said, bingo. He's like, there you go. That's your name. That's for you doing this work. That is the pair of shoes to fill into. And it's stuck ever since. And so when I do this work, I go by Skye Chen. And I feel more and more and more like Skye Chen as the days go on, to the point where I might actually literally legally change my name to Skye Chen someday. But that's the name of this work, of this, people like names and personas and ego related things because it is a structure. It's a package, right? It's a way to market it. And that's what connects people, because you got to connect with people where they're at doing this work. But because a lot of times people don't realize what more there is, but that's what they feel. And that's why they're guided to you in the first place, which is another thing I love about this job, if you can even call it a job, where people who are ready, they really, really know with me. They really, 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 really know. And oftentimes they struggle with their minds because they're trying to make sense of it through their intellect. That's that bottleneck we were talking about earlier with dementia patients. Not saying that these kind of people are prone to dementia, but a lot of times we just in general in society, we struggle with our ego, our intellect, because we were born into a system that's heavily reliant upon the intellect. But it's a tiny sliver of what's accessible to us in a variety of ways to know things beyond just knowing it through the intellect. That was a huge rant, but yeah, big switchboard, lots and lots, lots of things. Oh yeah, lots of different things here and there, relationship struggles, family issues as well. I've had pretty much every flavor of challenge you can have in life. Let me knock on wood here. But life has been extremely challenging, but I recognize now in this period of my life that myself and many other shamans, many other healers, we go through that partially because we show what's possible to other people. We show the power of the spiritual resilience that we have within us, the power of spirit, the power of our soul, because that's the driver of the whole vehicle. That's an analogy I use for the healing that I do as well, by the way, that my guides have told me. And it's a great analogy to use. I'll bring it up here. If people come to me and they want EC done, they'll ask, well, what exactly is it? And I'll say, well, simply put, if you're driving your car and you notice something's up, you take it to the mechanic, right? The mechanic will tinker on it. That's the same as going to a Reiki master or an energy healer. It's great. I'm not knocking that form of healing. I go to energy healers and Reiki sessions. So, okay, good is new. It's fixed up. You go back out. But if that driver is driving that vehicle the same way that got them into the shop, they're going to have to come back into the shop. Mm-hmm. Right? The work that I engage in focuses on the driver of the vehicle. And can the driver be their own mechanic? Absolutely. I've seen it many, many, many times. So physical things do happen from the healing, but secondarily, emotional processing and breakthroughs do happen with the healing that I do, but secondarily, because the soul is the driver. I work with how is that driver aligned? Do they have their head out of the window like Ace Ventura with a cracked windshield? Are they looking behind them the entire time? Are they upside down? Are they pressing forward on the brakes instead of the gas when they're moving? Are they driving into other lanes? That's a big one. Are they asleep behind the wheel? Are they on top of the vehicle? Are they absent from the vehicle? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of iterations. And it's a great analogy to use because that's essentially what we do. All the rest of the descriptions or what you can ascertain from it is mind fluff, which is really just marketing, right? Because we're so used to seeing that and going to where we're most marketed to. But that's a mind thing. That's a psychological thing. Edward Bernays has come and went, but his impact that he left on organizations, institutions, and large corporations is still here because we're marketed at every square inch of our lives with everything. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a big rant too, but that that genuineness that we connect with, that's what people are longing for and thirsting for, and why they're really attracted to this kind of work. Not just myself, but with many, many other healers who do this. There's something you just know and you can feel about us with our presence that attracts you, right? And a big part of that too is like going through life, going through bumps and bruises in every way, shape imaginable and beyond, to where when people like us speak, you're captivated and you want to know more and you want to dig deeper. That's a great sign. We're here to do that. We're here to be that.
I think that's really important, and that's a good point, because I would love to sit here and talk with you the rest of the day. But we already ran over from our allotted 10 to 11 time slot, and I want to say thank you everyone who has tuned in. We got a lot of people viewing live right now as well. I would like to apologize for the first intonation of today's episode as well, for the audio issues and the timing and stuff like that. I hope that everyone that did tune in to the remake of this show has had a wonderful time, because I know I did. And Skye, you are so eloquent in how you talk, and I have never regretted a episode or any show that I've had with you on. They've always been fabulous, fun, and just amazing. So with the time that we got left here, and I know you got things to do on your own, I got things to do, and everybody else too as well. Two final things that I would like from you. First of all, tell everyone where they can find you, how they can reach out, and any locations that you're going to be coming up. And second, because I know that you will do a fabulous job, can you tell us if there was like one small thing that everyone can go out and do today to make their life better, to help them drive that car better, to reach a better place in existence, what would that be? So tell us where you're going to be starting, and then leave us with your final thought, please.
I'm going to answer the last question first, because I literally heard something come through as you were saying that. And as cliche as this may sound, I really want everybody to really feel this and hone this in. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you see, what you feel, what you know. Because I know that there's a lot of people watching right now and in the future, as you see this, who really resonate with what we've been talking about here today, because you yourself have abilities. There's a reason that my guides told me to write on my poster when I go to all these different shows and locations that I am a psychic for psychics, a healer for healers. That holds true. There are many of us who feel lost and disoriented and feeling like there's just something missing or just something wrong about the way that your life is going or what you're attracted to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Especially if you have your own businesses where you're doing readings for people, you're doing healing for people. Believe in yourself, especially now where we're headed into the future, because the degree to which you can ascertain what is true from fabricated through your mind alone is dwindling, because of the advent of AI and all of the incentives and the technologies that are available right now that would really get there's a lot going on beneath the scenes that would shock and awe many, many millions of people in the world right now. That is right at the precipice, that we're right on the edge of that, where you might find yourself in the near future, within 1 or 2 years, observing something and asking yourself, is this real? Like through your eyes, through your nose, through your body, through your ears, through everything intellect related. And that will cause a lot of people to snap and break. So know yourself, believe and trust in the deepest parts of you, because that's your anchor for the times that we're headed. Whatever you're drawn to, whatever you feel, whatever you know, give yourself that credit. You don't have to scrutinize everything from the mind. That's my biggest takeaway. Easier said than done, I know, but and as cliche as it sounds, believe in yourself. It's powerful, and it's so, so important for the times that we're living in right now. So where you can find me, I've got socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They're all the same handle, Skye Chen Psychic. That's SKYECHEN, just like you can see here. beneath my little description there. Website is skyechen.com. It's under construction. You can send me an email. It's revealingfate@gmail.com. All of that is listed on the website, skyechen.com. But for now, the easiest, quickest way is to add me on Facebook, to find me there. I also have a Facebook group, and you're more than welcome to join that. It's called Healing the Healer with Skye Chen. So if you just type Healing the Healer and then SKYECHEN, it'll pop up. You're more than welcome to join us. We have a great community there. Let's see, where am I going to be next? This weekend in South St. Paul for Lulu Lapis Blue. That's LULULAPIS Blue. Great event organizer. One of my absolute favorite shows, not just for how many people come there and how successful the show can be for all of us vendors, everybody doing their specific services there, but also because the energy and the quality of people that come there is second to none. It really isn't. And I've been doing these shows for a good number of years, about 5 or 6 years. And that says a lot. I'm stoked for this Saturday. You can find that on my Facebook page as well. We have all the events listed for upcoming things. If you're international, if you're from the Philippines, I'm going to be in the Philippines this May 25th for a show. And then there's another show coming up in June right after that. I'm going to be in the Philippines for 2 months from late May to mid-July. So if you're out there, mabuhay, come by, say hello. I'm going to be in the Manila area in Makati and Ermita. So if that's a possibility, come by, say hi. But I've got lots of things set up for the time being for this summer and this fall. So come by my Facebook group and page, and it's all listed up there for you.
Very cool.
Look forward to seeing you.
Very cool. Yep. And we do have those information and links in the show notes for you that missed it or want to come back and check it out. Make sure you check it out wherever you're listening or watching. In the show notes, you can see all of that stuff.
Awesome sauce.
Very good. Skye, I could talk to you all day. I'm going to have you back on again because I know there's a lot to dig in with you and so much stuff that we can talk about. And,
we can poll people too. If you want to see Barnaby, if you're fine with it too, I'd be down for like a 3-4 hour show or something.
I think we could do that. I don't know if the network would do that, but we could do it.
Never say never. There's ways. I feel like it's accessible to us.
Absolutely. I was talking on the first intonation of this podcast about how we're doing special things now for the Super Chats members and stuff. So that would be a very interesting I
go
think
with
that's
that.
A great show with that. So
yeah. There's something to that. I just got a ping.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely keep that in mind when it is the Paranormal Spectrum's chance to do that. I think he was going to do one a month or something like that. So we'll see. I will keep in touch, but not during May to June because you'll be in a different time zone and stuff. And I don't know.
I'll still do it. I'm still working with clients in different time zone. Yeah, we can work something out.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, guys, if you want to see that, put it in the show notes. Send a message. Shoot us a message. Send me an email. Tell Skye you want him back on the show. Tell me you want him back on the show. And until next time, we'll have another guy on the show. But all right, Skye, thank you so much for coming on. And I really appreciate it and all that you do.
Likewise. Thank you, Barnaby, and everybody here. Many blessings to you.
Thank you. All right, guys, coming up next week, Monday, I will have on the Monsters on the Edge show, Monday mornings. I will have the Minnesota Iceman, Terry Cullen, will be joining me in studio here for a talk about the Minnesota Iceman and all things going on with that. And then coming up next Thursday, right back here on the Paranormal Spectrum, we have remote viewer Christopher Duncan will be joining us. So awesome stuff coming up, and I hope that you look forward to that. Remember to like, share, and support the Untold Radio Network. And until next time, guys, remember, we're all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. I'll see y'all later, guys.
You seem to know something I don't. What's going on?